Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Life-Changing True Stories. Today, I bring you a powerful and deeply loving story. Sofia Torres stood before the cracked mirror in her small bedroom, smoothing down the emerald green dress her best friend Carmen had lent her that morning. Her hands trembled slightly as she applied a touch of lipstick, the cheapest one she could find at the corner store. At 26 years old, she had never been on a real date. Tonight felt like stepping into a world she had only seen in movies. For the past 4 years, Sofia had worked as a housekeeper in the sprawling estate of James Whitfield, one of the wealthiest business owners in Los Angeles. His mansion was a palace of marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and rooms so vast they echoed with emptiness. Sofia knew every corner of that house, every surface she polished until it gleamed, every window she cleaned until it sparkled. But to James, she was practically invisible. Just another part of the machinery that kept his life running smoothly. James was always courteous, always polite, but their interactions rarely went beyond a brief good morning or thank you. He lived a life that looked grand from the outside but felt hollow from within. Sofia often wondered what it must be like to have everything money could buy, yet still seem so far from happiness. Tonight was supposed to be different. She had met Ryan online 2 weeks ago. His messages had been sweet and thoughtful. He seemed kind, someone who might see beyond her modest circumstances. When he suggested meeting at the Golden Rose, an elegant restaurant downtown, Sofia felt a flutter of hope. Maybe this was her chance to be seen, to matter to someone. With exactly $8 in her purse, everything left after paying rent and sending money to her mother, she drove to the restaurant in her old car. Doubt crept in like cold fog, but Carmen's voice echoed in her mind. "You're beautiful. Don't hide." The Golden Rose shimmered like a jewel on 5th Street, glowing with warm light. The moment Sofia walked in, she felt eyes on her. Elegant diners in expensive clothes seemed to assess her instantly. She swallowed her discomfort as the waiter led her to a table by the window. 8 o'clock came and went. Then 8:15. Then 8:30. The waiter returned several times, offering to take her order, but she kept telling him she was waiting. The whispers around her grew louder, cutting deeper. Finally, her phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. "Sorry, I don't think this will work out. You're not what I'm looking for. Good luck." The words shattered something inside her. Tears gathered in her eyes as humiliation washed over her. She needed to leave before she broke completely. What she didn't know was that, across the restaurant, James Whitfield had been sitting alone. His business dinner had been cancelled, so he stayed to eat while reviewing contracts. He hadn't planned to notice anything around him, until he noticed her. At first, he didn't recognize the elegant woman in the green dress. But then he did. Sofia, his housekeeper. A woman he had walked past 100 times without truly seeing. But tonight, seeing her in that dress, vulnerable and hopeful, something stirred inside him. He saw her checking her phone. He saw her growing more anxious. And he saw her heart break the moment she read the message. Something twisted painfully in his chest. Before he could stop himself, he stood and walked toward her. Sofia had just gathered her purse when she looked up and froze. "Mr. Whitfield," she whispered, mortified. "Sofia," he said softly. "May I sit?" "I was just leaving," she said quickly, wiping her tears. "Please don't. Not yet. Not like this." Something in his tone, a gentleness she had never heard from him, made her pause. She nodded. "I saw what happened," he murmured. "Someone stood you up." Sofia's cheeks burned. Of all the people to witness her humiliation, it had to be him. "Yes," she whispered. "I suppose I was foolish to think tonight would be different. I'm not the kind of woman men choose. I'm the kind they overlook." Her words hit James harder than he expected. "You're wrong," he said firmly. "And the man who stood you up is a fool." Sofia searched his face for pity, but she saw none. Instead, she saw something that made her breath catch. He was looking at her as though he truly saw her. For the first time. "Why are you here?" she asked. Why did you come to my table? James hesitated only a moment before telling her the truth. Because I couldn't stand to see you hurting. Because for 4 years you've been in my life, and I've been too blind to notice you. The air shifted, charged with a quiet electricity neither could ignore. He invited her to stay for dinner, promising they could forget their roles for one night. Employer and employee set aside, just Sophia and James. They talked for hours. Sophia spoke of her childhood, her hard-working mother, her dream of owning a small bakery someday. James was amazed by how little he knew about the woman who had been in his home for years. She asked him about his dreams, a question he rarely asked himself. He confessed he had always wanted to be a teacher, not a business tycoon. She told him softly, "There's always a way to feed your soul, James." He told her about the loneliness behind his wealth, the walls built around his heart. She reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "I see you," she whispered. The warmth of her touch left him breathless. After dinner, they walked into the cool Los Angeles night. Sophia thanked him for turning her worst evening into something beautiful. "It wasn't kindness," James said, stepping closer. "It was because I didn't want you to leave. Not yet. Can I see you again?" he asked, vulnerability raw in his voice. "Not as my employee. As you and me." She should have said no. But looking into his eyes, she felt something real, something rare. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." He kissed her forehead gently, a promise wrapped in tenderness. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the mansion with butterflies in her stomach. To her surprise, James was in the kitchen, something he never did. When he saw her, his face lit up. "I made extra coffee," he said. "Will you join me on the terrace before you start your day?" It was a small moment, but it marked the beginning of something neither could deny. As they sat watching the sunrise, sipping coffee, both knew their lives had changed forever. In the weeks that followed, a quiet rhythm blossomed between them. Professional by day, something deeper by night. Their story was only beginning. James spent evenings in the kitchen learning to make Sophia's grandmother's recipes, flour dusting his sleeves while she guided him with patient humor. Other nights, they curled up in his home theater watching old movies, sitting close enough to feel each other's warmth. And many nights, they simply talked, about dreams, fears, regrets, hopes, peeling back each layer of their lives until nothing was hidden. James discovered that Sophia had a quick wit that made him laugh freely for the first time in years. Sophia introduced him to her world. She took him to the community center where she volunteered, where children flocked to her with sticky hands and bright smiles. Through her eyes, James learned to see the richness of simplicity, the beauty in small joys money could never buy. And Sophia, in turn, discovered the man behind the billionaire facade. She learned that James had been secretly donating to schools and hospitals for years, quietly helping without ever seeking praise. She found collections of Neruda and Rumi tucked away in his study, proof of an artist's soul hidden within a businessman's life. But love, especially love that crosses worlds, never remains hidden for long. Their turning point came one Friday evening, 6 weeks after that fateful night at the Golden Rose. James had invited Sophia to a charity gala, a public event where their appearance together would be impossible to overlook. Sophia wore a navy blue gown he insisted on buying for her, though she resisted at first. When they arrived at the Beverly Hills Hotel, cameras exploded like fireworks. Reporters shouted questions. Wealthy women whispered behind champagne glasses. And James felt Sophia's hand tremble. "We can leave if you want," he whispered. Sophia took a shaky breath and raised her chin. "No. I'm done hiding. I won't be ashamed of who I am or what I feel for you." Her courage humbled him. They entered the ballroom like warriors stepping into battle. The reaction was swift and cruel. James's mother, Eleanor Whitfield, intercepted them almost immediately. Her diamond necklace sparkled, but her expression was ice. "James, darling," she cooed with poisoned sweetness. "Who is your little friend?" "Mother," James said with steel in his voice. This is Sophia Torres. The woman I love. The words struck the room like lightning. Sophia froze, stunned by the raw truth in them. Eleanor's face darkened. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. She's your housekeeper. This ends tonight. No, James replied calmly. What ends tonight is me living by your expectations instead of my own heart. Guests gathered, phones recording. Eleanor, realizing she was losing control, hissed. Think about the family reputation. The business. The board will never accept this. You're throwing everything away, for her. Yes, James said without hesitation. For her. Sophia swallowed the tears burning behind her eyes. She stepped forward, voice steady and full of quiet dignity. Mrs. Whitfield, I understand that you don't approve of me. But I want you to know that I love your son for who he is. Not his money, not his status. Just him. The man who listens, who laughs, who finally lets himself be seen. And he deserves to be loved that way. For a moment, something flickered in Eleanor's eyes. But before she could answer, James's sister Amanda swept forward with a bright smile. Finally, she said warmly, taking Sophia's hands. Someone real. I was terrified he'd end up with another plastic clone. Her support softened the tension in the room. But the battle outside that ballroom had only just begun. The media erupted with headlines. Billionaire's Cinderella romance. Whitfield heir dates his maid. Online comments were vicious. Some called Sophia a gold digger. Others accused James of exploiting an employee. The Whitfield board issued a brutal ultimatum. End the relationship or lose his position as CEO. Even Sophia's own community turned against her. Friends accused her of forgetting where she came from. Volunteers at the community center whispered behind her back. Anonymous messages flooded her phone with insults. The pressure mounted until one night, Sophia found James staring at financial reports, his expression heavy. The board gave me an ultimatum, he said quietly. End things with you, or they'll force me out. Sophia felt her chest crack open. Then you should end it, she whispered. I won't let you lose everything because of me. James crossed the room, emotion burning in his eyes. He cupped her face gently but firmly. Without you, he said, voice fierce, I have nothing. That company was never my dream. But you filled a place in my heart I didn't even know was empty. I'm not giving that up. Your family, your work, she began. I don't care, he said. None of it is worth anything if I have to live without you. I'd rather start from nothing with you than stay rich without you. Sophia's tears spilled over. I love you, she whispered. So much it terrifies me. Then be terrified with me, James murmured, kissing her, sealing a promise neither of them would break. The next day, James stood before the world at a press conference, Sophia at his side. His voice was steady, unwavering. My name is James Whitfield, and I am in love with Sophia Torres. She is not my maid. She is my partner, my equal, and the woman I intend to spend my life with. I am stepping down as CEO to live a life guided not by pressure, but by truth. And my truth is her. The world erupted again, but this time, something beautiful happened. People began sharing their own stories of forbidden love, of crossing boundaries society insisted they respect. Slowly, public judgment turned into admiration. Over time, even Eleanor softened, thanks to Amanda's persistence and the unmistakable joy in her son's eyes. James found freedom in letting go of the corporate empire. He became a history teacher at a community college, rediscovering joy he had not felt since childhood. Sophia opened her bakery, not with his money, but with a modest loan and relentless hard work. It became a beloved neighborhood spot, warm and full of life. 6 months after the gala, James proposed in the bakery's kitchen, surrounded by the scent of fresh bread. The ring was simple, a slim band with a small sapphire that reminded him of the dress she'd worn the night he truly saw her. Marry me, he said on one knee. Not because of what we were, but because of what we built. Because we chose each other when the world said we shouldn't. Yes, she said through joyful tears. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was small, tender, and full of only the people who mattered. Sophia's mother cried throughout. Eleanor embraced Sophia with a quiet apology. And as James and Sophia danced under a sky full of stars, he whispered, "Thank you for teaching me what really matters." "And thank you for seeing me," Sophia whispered back. Their story didn't end that night. It began. A life built on courage, truth, and devotion. Proof that love, real love, crosses every boundary, shatters every expectation, and builds beauty where the world sees impossibility. And somewhere in Los Angeles, in a warm little bakery that smelled of cinnamon and hope, their love story inspired countless others to believe in the impossible. To look beyond appearances. To recognize that sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected place. Like a blind date gone wrong, with only $8 in your purse, and the right person standing just across the room. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more life-changing stories.